So our fourth explanation for offending behaviour is called differential association theory, and it's based around social learning theory, so it's something you should be very familiar with. If you need a refresher on social learning theory, please go back to the screencast that outlines the general principles and Bandura's research, because we won't be doing that in this screencast here. So differential association theory was proposed by Sutherland in 1939, and Sutherland suggested that everybody has an association with criminals and non-criminals, and whether or not somebody turns out to be a criminal will depend on whether the criminal associations outweigh the non-criminal associations. So if they do, then offending behaviour would occur. And if criminal association doesn't outweigh non-criminal association, then offending behaviour wouldn't occur. And he even went so far as to suggest that you could develop a mathematical formula which would determine whether or not somebody would offend based on their associations. So there were 9 key principles that Sutherland proposed. The first is that offending behaviour is learned and that that's through association with others. And those associations occur within intimate and personal groups. So this really is just the basis of social learning theory, that we learn from other people and we learn to copy them. So Sutherland suggested that we learn attitudes towards crime, how acceptable crime is, and techniques for crime. So attitudes are either pro or anti-crime. The acceptability of crime, this can vary. So it could be that in some associations a particular type of crime is accepted, but another type of crime isn't. So for example, maybe pickpocketing is okay, but armed robbery would not be acceptable. And techniques are more of the practical things. So how to hotwire a car or how to pick a lock. Now these are all either pro or anti-crime, so learning is in one direction or the other, and whether or not someone becomes an offender will depend on the weighting of the pro or anti-criminal influences. Now the last 3 principles were based around the idea that learning experiences are different for each individual, and that the learning process for crime is no different than the learning process for any other behaviour. So this is again when we come back to the idea of social learning, which suggests that we learn our behaviour from observing others. We just learn criminal behaviour in the same way. He also said that need wasn't enough of a reason. He said there were plenty of people out there who were in need of things like money or other resources who didn't turn to crime. So Sutherland said that you had to involve these learning processes in order for someone to turn to offending behaviour. You can find more information on differential association theory in the pre-reading, and before you come into the lesson, make sure you can use social learning theory to explain the fundamental concept behind differential association theory and explain how offending behaviour occurs using Sutherland's 9 key principles.